Hi everyone, welcome to I think the final introduction video for our last short story in our short story unit. I'm looking forward to getting into the short story with you. I know I've said that about the last two, but I'm especially excited for this one. This one I read also when I was around your age and I loved it. It's different. That's all I'm going to say for right now before I spoil anything for you. And also I think it's fitting with everything that's happening in the world today. So I'm hoping, we can have some really good conversations about the short story with the lens of what's happening in our own society. So just something to keep in mind, okay? So in your bell work, I asked you, is it possible to make everyone equal? Why or why not? And the reason I asked you this question is because we're going to be talking a lot about equality and what that looks like in the short story, as well as what it looks like in our own society. I told you we were going to be reflecting on ourselves as we read. So just something to keep in mind, okay? I was really excited to see some of your answers. A lot of you had very differing opinions on things, and I think that's good, right? You can't have a productive conversation without a little disagreement here and there. So I'm excited to get into this. All right, so the short story we're reading is called Harrison Bergeron. And honestly, the pictures I posted kind of give you a hint as to what the story is going to be about. But like I said, I'm super excited, and this is our final short story, so let's go ahead and get into it. The setting of our short story is a dystopian society, and for those of you that don't know what a dystopia is, it's a society or a community or whatever that is usually set in the future, and the governing body that is kind of in charge of everyone and everything is making an attempt to achieve a utopia, which means paradise or perfection on Earth, that like everything is perfect. But the way that the governing body goes about it is wrong, and it makes human life, like just living in general, extremely miserable and oppressive. And some examples that I'm sure you all, at least I hope you are, familiar with would be the Hunger Games, the Divergent series, the books and the movies. And I would even say The Walking Dead too, if any of you are into The Walking Dead. And I know there are countless video games that talk about dystopian societies where we're trying to regain control after some big thing happened, and the way our governing body is going about it is not the best way. And some elements of dystopian societies, that kind of set up what we're going to be reading include blind consent from all citizens, so conformity. And we talked about conformity and blindly following the rest of the crowd in our last short story, The Lottery. So we said it was dangerous, remember, to conform without asking questions, right? Without questioning conformity. And so blind consent from all citizens is a big one in dystopian societies. Everybody within the community or the society has a distrust of the outside world. So everything that the government says is what it is, and anything outside of that is not true or doesn't exist, depending on what context we're reading. Constant government surveillance, and this just means that Big Brother is always watching, right? I mean, there are countless conspiracy theories that, the government's bugged our phones, and the birds are now surveillance cameras and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But this is especially a big one in dystopian societies because the government has to make sure that everybody's following the rules. Everybody is conforming to what the rules and regulations are, okay? And then finally, personal choice and individuality are taken away. And this is a big one in the short story that we're going to be reading. And I'll kind of explain that when we get into our themes in Harrison and Bergeron. So, equality versus individuality. Remember I said personal choice and individuality are taken away. And this is a major theme in this short story. So equality means we are working towards putting everybody on the same level. meaning nobody is better or worse than the person next to them. We are all basically the same, okay? Or at least treated the same, or whatever the context is for equality. Versus individuality. And individuality is just what makes you you. So your likes and dislikes, any talents that you may have, your personality, right? All of that stuff that makes you the person that you are. So we're going to see how equality kind of takes away some individuality, especially in Harrison Bergeron. I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a hard time pronouncing the title, apparently. We're also going to be looking at freedom and if it's taken away or if it's given with equality, right? If we lose freedom when we work towards equality, or if we are given freedom if we work towards equality, and we're going to see what that means here in a little bit. We're also going to be talking about the power of TV in the media. And obviously this theme itself is something that we can see in our everyday lives, right? Social media, the news, everything that influences our brains and the way we think, right? All circles around these two big things, TV and the media, whether you admit to it or not. And we're going to see how this is an influence in our short story as well. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the danger of total equality. So is it dangerous for the world to be totally equal, for everybody to be totally equal, and what that might look like? Some questions that I want you to think about while we're reading and what we're going to be talking about while we read include: do we lose what makes us individuals as we work towards equality? What is freedom? And do we lose freedom if we take away individuality? How much of an influence does the media have in our everyday lives? That should be an easy one to answer. And finally, is there danger in working towards total equality? And not only do these questions obviously fit the short story that we're going to be reading, but these can also be asked in our everyday lives ourselves, right? Given everything that's happening right now, Black Lives Matter riots and movements, feminist rallies, any other thing that you can think of, right? The LGBTQ community working towards having equality. What does that look like? How are all these movements changing our world, and what does that look like in the face of equality, right? And we'll get into that more as we read and discuss what we're reading. So I'm really excited, guys. I really am. And then obviously we have a vocab list. We have 10 vocab words this time, which is less than last time, only by one, obviously, but these shouldn't be too bad. I know the last ones were a little bit more difficult. So same as always, just make sure you read the directions on the actual assignment, but I'm going to go ahead and read through these so that you know how they're pronounced. The first one is vigilance, envious, impediment, luminous, calibrate, hindrance, oppression, cower, consternation, and real. Okay? All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. A pretty short introduction, but I just wanted to make sure I gave you enough time to work on the vocab. If you have any questions or concerns, as always, please email or message me, and I will see you all during the Zoom call.